Let's now shift our attention to the other big story that we are tracking on WION, and this, of course, has come in from Ukraine, where in an aerial onslaught on Kiev and the surrounding areas, it is now being said that Russia has rained down bombs, drones and missiles on Ukraine's capital city. Rockets hit the high-rise buildings, sparking multiple fires. The air assault was reportedly a retaliation to Ukraine's strikes on the Russian city of Belgorod that resulted in 24 fatalities. The Ukrainian authorities call the strikes a part of simultaneous air assaults on the cities of Kiev and Kharkiv. And the barrage took place early morning around dawn on Tuesday, with deeper strikes disabling power across the capital city. The debris from the strikes was sent flying into the residential areas. There were reports of 2 deaths along with multiple injuries to people. The Kiev's Mayor Vitaly Klitschko also warned citizens of explosions. On Telegram, he's urged them to seek shelter immediately. Vitaly Klitschko further added that gas pipelines had been damaged. A large part of Kiev's Pecheresky district was left without power. And Kharkiv's mayor, Ihor Terekov, has also confirmed the aerial assault on both cities. Now, the Ukrainian Air Force earlier claimed that it had destroyed as many as about 35 drones that Russia launched midnight on the key Ukrainian cities. And these attacks have come just a day after the Russian President Vladimir Putin vowed revenge for an earlier strike at the Russian provincial capital of Belgorod.
It was a deliberate strike against civilians. Of course, it's a terrorist attack. There's no other way to call it. Should we respond the same way? Of course we can. We can hit squares in Kyiv or in any other city for that matter. There are children walking there, moms with prams. I understand I'm fuming myself, but I want to ask you a question. Is this what we should do? Hit the squares?
The Ukraine launched its assault on Belgorod on Saturday after massive aerial bombardment, but Russia killed as many as about 39 people on Friday. Ukraine's attack that allegedly used cluster ammunition killed 20 people, including 2 children. 111 people were injured. And Russia's retaliatory strike, of course, came within hours of the attack on Kharkiv, and 2 Russian S-300 missiles struck the city center, injuring as many as about 21 people.
We do want to end the conflict as quickly as possible, only on our terms. We have no desire to fight indefinitely, but we are not going to give up our positions either. You have fought, been wounded there and so on, so are we going to give up everything?
And also to give us more perspective on this, we're being joined by Mr. Glenn Grant, who's joining us live from Riga in Latvia. Glenn Grant is a retired Lieutenant Colonel with the British Army and a former advisor to the Defence Minister of Ukraine. Now, Colonel Grant, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Let me begin by asking you this. Now, in the course of the last 1 week, we've seen a sudden sharp surge in the number of attacks of this nature that have happened. What is going on with this war? Are we looking at a bigger escalation that's now happening?
I don't think so, because you need to understand that Russia has actually been conserving missiles for several months, for doing something as the year began. I think also your comment about that Ukraine made the attack on Belgorod needs a bit of more journalism looking at, because they can't actually reach Belgorod with the weapons that supposedly have been fired there.
Right.
And Ukraine has been doing its utmost not to attack civilians since the war started. I mean, you can see that from the war as it goes on. They've just been targeting military facilities. So this strikes me as being again another sort of red flag operation by the Russians to create the situation that people give them equivalence, moral equivalence to what they're doing. But that shouldn't happen. Because these 2 attacks, the New Year attack and then this one last night, were deliberately terrorist attacks. I mean, there are no attempts whatsoever to attack military targets.
Right.
And this is just terrorism.
Now, if, as you say, that this attack on Belgorod could be a red flag attack by the Russians themselves, does it not actually, impact on the image that the Russian President Vladimir Putin would want to give to his own countrymen in terms of how the war is going? Now, what has been reported, and this has been reported worldwide, is that this attack on Belgorod, in which about 20 Russian people got killed, was carried out by Ukraine. This is something that's being reported not just by us, but pretty much every major media outlet around the world for the last 3-4 days. So the question that I want to ask you is, you're suggesting that this could be a a false flag operation by the Russians. But what we are witnessing is the attack that took place in the Crimean Peninsula on the port of Feodosia, where a Russian warship was struck. And we're also looking at heightened military activity in the course of the last fortnight. So the question that I started off with was, are we looking at an escalation at a time when Ukraine is staring at the possibility that Western aid may no longer be available this year? Do you not think that this is an escalation that we're looking at?
No, I don't. Because I go back to what I said. In the first place, that Russia has been conserving missiles. So it's after terror. Why is it after terror? Well, because it's losing on the front line in the battle. In the war, it's losing massive amounts of people and massive amounts of equipment. And so Putin badly needs to have some success, and this is the sort of thing he would do. He badly needs to convince the population before his coming re-election, because he will be re-elected, that actually things are going well. And so this is just part of a pattern. And of course, the attack on the warship, well, that's a legitimate military target. And it's not only legitimate military target, it's a target that was carrying drones from Iran, and could be used again. So, it needed to be killed as far as the Ukrainians were concerned.
All right, my next question to you, Colonel, is going to be this. Now, this is a war that Ukraine has been fighting with Western weapons and with Western military aid. The chief backer of Ukraine this time has been the United States of America, but Joe Biden has been unable to secure more funding to help Ukraine out in this war. How concerned do you think the Ukrainians will be? Because the American funding has now literally dried up, unless Joe Biden can, of course, convince the Republicans in the United States.
That is a very good question. I think that we will see the money come back from US. I mean, there's a lot of internal politics going on in the US at the moment, and Ukraine has just been caught up in that, and it's being used as a leverage against Biden. But hopefully Biden will be able to actually swing that, and it will come back. Now, your comment about aid drying up, well, the answer to that is it is both drying up, and in other areas it's being re-energized, because industry is actually now beginning to turn itself into producing much more. So I think we're in the overlap period where countries like UK have simply run out of everything, and we're still waiting for industry to actually start churning it out.
All right. Now, my final question to you, Colonel, is this. Now, there are reports that are doing the rounds in German media which suggest that Joe Biden and also the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz have been privately nudging Volodymyr Zelensky to negotiate and to strike a deal with Russia. In the public domain, the Americans have said that they want to back the Ukrainians as much as they can, but in private, this is what is being reported within the German media, that both Joe Biden and Olaf Scholz want Volodymyr Zelensky to, in fact, strike a deal with the Russians and to negotiate, possibly on Russian terms. What do you make of those reports?
I think most of those are more Russian-inspired than they are reality. But even if they were true, there is no chance whatsoever that the Ukrainian public would accept that, and Zelensky knows that. So he's not got a chance of negotiating. He'll only negotiate if Russia withdraws, away from the borders completely, including Crimea. So this is not going to happen. So it doesn't matter what Scholz and Biden think. Ukraine is going to fight on.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Colonel Grant, for joining us with that perspective there. And this of course, is a story that we'll continue to track on WION.
Thank you very much.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.